The 5-day testing requirement is being eliminated. The Prime Minister weighing in on BPL price increases, and a video of a man being robbed at gunpoint goes viral. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tyler Simonet with your JCN News for this Wednesday, March 2nd. As the country's tourism product continues to rebound, Acting Prime Minister and Tourism Minister Chester Cooper says that the government plans to eliminate the 5-day testing requirement for visitors effective immediately. He made this announcement today during a sideline interview with airline stakeholders.
Effectively, what is going to happen once the gazetting is done, effective immediately, what we knew as the 5-day test will be eliminated. So it is the post-travel test after you come to the Bahamas, that test will be eliminated. For the avoidance of doubt, you still require a test to enter the Bahamas. What we are going to offer to our guests is a free rapid test for their outgoing travel.
Now, the testing requirement has been a vital COVID-19 policy, helping with the mitigation of the virus here in the country. Over the last year, the testing requirement changed based on the COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations. With the spring break holiday season upon us, Minister Cooper says that officials are not concerned about the uptick in positive cases.
We have to strike a balance consistently between being competitive, between facilitating visitors and guests to our shores, as well as protecting the health and safety of the Bahamian people. We've done well so far. Every time there's a change, we've pivoted well. When Omicron came, we changed it from a 5-day test to a 2-day test. And we hope to be at the end of the pandemic soon.
The DPM says that stockholders within the industry have made recommendations for the further relaxation of protocols, and tourism officials are reviewing them.
Well, there's a recommendation to move the mask requirement, for example. And we see in some jurisdictions that this is the direction that some countries are going in. Some countries have declared that the pandemic is over. And we want to ensure that we get it right as best as possible. And therefore, we are going to be very deliberate in our approach.
There is currently no timeline for when these recommendations will come into effect. Prime Minister Philip Davis on Tuesday from Belize commented on the Bahamas Power and Light's proposed rise in fuel costs. That proposal, though recalled, was to see fuel costs on customers' bills rise about 32 cents per kilowatt hour. BPL recalled their initial statement, and Works and Utilities Minister Alfred Sears further thwarted the idea by revealing to reporters that on Tuesday that BPL's fuel cost rise decision was not approved by Cabinet, and a decision by the power giant was premature. Minister Sears also told reporters the matter was raised to him by BPL's chairman last week, and further noted that the Prime Minister had appointed a Cabinet subcommittee to look at how to address the question of energy in the country on both a short and long-term basis.
My government will do its endeavor best to ensure that the rise in gas prices around the world will not have a deleterious effect on our people. God knows that our people could least afford to have more taxes or more costs visited upon their backs. And my government will do all in its power to see how we could avert raising the cost of electricity on our people. And as soon as I'm back to the Bahamas, we will be sitting down to brainstorm to see how we can best do that. Perfect.
Minister Sears has acknowledged that the cost of fuel has been increasing very rapidly, especially given the intervention by Russia into Ukraine. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell just last week told reporters that gas prices can soar to as high as $8 per gallon as a result of expected inflation due to Russia's invasion. Meantime, Prime Minister Davis from San Pedro, Belize, says the first session of the 33rd Intersessional Meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community, or CARICOM, has been very interesting. He says what is clear that there are similar challenges within the region.
The highlight for me was the impact of COVID on our various communities. We had an overview of the same from CAFI, and one of the issues, and this is where I made an intervention. And the intervention is the balancing between saving lives and protecting livelihoods. And I think that was well received by the community. And we recognize that the pandemic is going nowhere. We have to learn to live with it.
CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett extended a warm welcome to the Prime Minister as this is his first session as a head of state. Meanwhile, with tourism being the country's #1 industry, the tourism product was a topic addressed during the session.
As the chair over the country with the tourism as its portfolio, we had to discuss that in the context of the pandemic. And therein we appreciated that as we were turning away our guests, Mexico, Dominican Republic, were just receiving them and without any hiccup or any surge. And so we have to find a way to reset our position. We have to look at where we are in respect to our competitors and not lose our market share because we want to continue to have measures that makes it difficult for guests to visit our shores.
Also, the Prime Minister responded to the report issued by the United Nations on climate change, a matter which the Davis-Cooper administration has addressed several times since coming into office. He admits that he's placed about. The Prime Minister notes that food security is high on the agenda. The two-day session, which first in-person meeting in almost 2 years, is being charged by Belize's Prime Minister. The Prime Minister also noted that food security is high on the agenda.
Well, what the UN is saying is catching up with what I've been saying. So I'm happy to see that they recognize what we have been recognizing for quite a while. And again, that's a topic that we're going to be discussing at our next plenary sessions. Climate change and how it's impacting our country, both from a health point of view and from a point of view of the destruction to our economies.
A video recording of a man pleading for his life in front of his home as he's robbed by 2 masked gunmen is causing a frenzy on social media today, as many are outraged by these brazen criminals. Our news team reached out to Police Press Liaison Officer, Superintendent of Police Audley Peters, and here he is with the details.
We're aware that a video is circulating on social media with a robbery being in progress. We've received reports of that incident and that matter is being investigated. The incident occurred in the eastern area of New Providence, and as it stands, our officers are doing their preliminary inquiries into it, and we should have some resolution into that incident in the shortest possible time.
Superintendent Peters says the incident occurred in College Gardens shortly after 10 p.m. last evening. He adds that the victim is believed to be in his late 20s. No leads yet on those 2 gunmen, but we understand that officers are currently on the ground making their rounds and conducting inquiries. The International Ship and Port Facility Security Code, implemented after the 9/11 attacks, is a measure used to enhance security of ships and port facilities from perceived threats. The Bahamas is one of 148 countries globally that has adopted the Shipping Security Code, and later this month will undergo its first ISPS National Emergency Exercise. Today, Minister responsible for Transport, JoBeth Colby-Davis, officially informs the public. Trino Saunders tells us more.
The Bahamas is fast approaching its first international ship and port facility security national emergency exercise, when ports and ships on 6 islands will come under virtual attack, with national security forces and other emergency personnel required to respond in a timely and effective manner. With 9 days to go before the training exercise, Minister of Transport and Housing, JoBeth Colby-Davis, wanted to inform the general public about the massive undertaking and why the exercise is needed.
I wish to advise members of the public that on Thursday, March 10th, 2022, the ISPS Compliance Unit will be conducting a national exercise to test the country's capability of responding to a synchronized incident affecting multiple international port facilities within the Bahamas. The purpose of this exercise is to promote emergency preparedness, test the country's implemented security measures, and evaluate the nation's response to an emergency at selected international port facilities.
Mrs. Colby-Davis says the training exercise is crucial for the government and to the country because it allows shipping and import-export companies to be confident in their safety while at shipping ports and major docks here in the Bahamas.
As a small island developing state, effective security and the efficient response to emergency situations at the international port facilities within the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is a major priority for the government. As the Minister of Transport and Housing, I am fully aware of the role that international port facilities play in sustaining and growing our economy. I also understand the far-reaching impact that security breaches and deficiencies can have on our country's reputation. Therefore, we must ensure that our port facilities are in a continuous state of readiness to handle any emergency.
The training exercises will happen simultaneously across the country, with the first attack on Inagua ending with attacks on multiple facilities here in New Providence. Each attack will occur just minutes apart within a 30-minute time frame. Initially, the training exercise was to be a surprise, but National Coordinator Commander Bertram Boleg from the Royal Bahamas Defense Force says this time around the public will get a warning.
We want the public to know that we are doing this to test our capabilities. We do not want our nation to feel like they are under attack, but we still want them to have that. We still want to have that effect that we are under attack. But however, we don't want a panic within the country. So that is why we announced this, the first one. We announced in the first one. Now, I will not promise you that in the future there will not be a surprise. But we have to do this one. We have to do this one to test our capability. The nation, we must know that what we are capable of achieving if an incident like this were to happen in the Bahamas.
Each government agency has had the opportunity to take a test run, and according to Commander Boleg, there were some deficiencies identified, with communications among the various agencies being one of them. Those kinks are expected to be ironed out in time for the full-scale training session on March 10th. Chirino Saunders, JCN News.
You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.